Hey, I'm Amanda from Trifecta Fitness. We're proud to be Clarksville's new Get Fit headquarters. Trifecta Fitness is a state-of-the-art spin and strength training studio. Our spin studio is truly one of a kind in this area, complete with 20 state-of-the-art live fitness bikes and an incredible sound system. Our strength training is done in small groups of 6 or fewer, and all of our strength and spin classes are scalable for every level of experience. Come see us in the heart of Clarksville, just behind MAPCO at the corner of Old Trenton Road and Wilma Rudolph Boulevard. Call us for more info at 931-542-6265 or download our Trifecta Fitness app for a full list of upcoming classes.
Hey, I'm Logan. I'm a sergeant first class in the Army, and I've been lucky enough to secure one of the charity slots provided by the Lifetime Foundation for next year's Leadville 100. In order to do this, I'm looking to raise around $2,800 over the course of the next year to donate to the Lifetime Foundation. A lot of their focus is on youth movement and nutrition and conservation, among other things. And it's a really great cause, and I appreciate any help that you guys could give. And a little bit goes a long way, and it'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
In October 2019, Arlington, Texas was chosen to be the home of a new national museum, unlike any other. The National Medal of Honor Museum will be a unique home of military history. The 100,000 square foot museum will house exhibits, archives, and artifacts relating to the 3,500 U.S. troops who have been awarded the medal, the nation's highest honor for valor in combat. The museum will have 31,000 square feet of galleries dedicated to U.S. troops who have received the award. The museum CEO, former Navy SEAL and NASA astronaut Chris Cassidy, said the museum will focus on education as much as preservation. The building will have 5 areas dedicated to Medal of Honor winners from the Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, and Coast Guard. The main gallery will be located in a central plaza under a 25,000 square foot slab of steel, which will appear to be suspended in midair. It will be supported by 5 pillars. Black Rifle Coffee is a corporate sponsor of the museum, as are the Dallas Cowboys. The museum's board also includes over a dozen major corporations and 6 Medal of Honor recipients, including David Bellavia, Patrick Brady, and Britt Slabinski. Army Staff Sergeant Bellavia was awarded the medal for clearing an entire house by himself on November 10, 2004, as a squad leader in support of Operation Phantom Fury in Fallujah, Iraq. He killed 4 enemy fighters and wounded a 5th in close quarters battle. Army Major General Brady flew and coordinated the evacuation of 51 seriously wounded men during a firefight in Vietnam in January 1968. Slabinski, a Navy SEAL chief and team leader, led a rescue team of SEALs during Operation Anaconda in Afghanistan in March 2002. Slabinski and his team flew to a mountaintop ambush site to rescue Petty Officer First Class Neil Roberts, who had fallen from the back of a helicopter. Slabinski led the team through almost constant combat against an entrenched Taliban force. Along with the board members, former presidents Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama serve as honorary directors. The museum is expected to open to the public in late 2024.
All right. Welcome back.
Misfit Nation. Misfit Nation. The Misfit Nation Show.
We are a show founded by a veteran and hosted by 2 veterans and a military spouse. Our mission is to get people to tell their stories to the world. If you're an author, share your tips with the Misfit Nation. If you're a musician or an actor, our audience needs to know how they too can get into the business. Coaches, we love our coaches. Come on and share your tips with the Misfit Nation to help them become better versions of themselves. If you are a corporate leader or an entrepreneur, come on and show how you did it and how hard you have fought for success. If you are a veteran, first responder, or Gold Star family, we would love to have you come on and share your story with the Misfit Nation. We always have time for you. If you're feeling down, alone, or starting to see the darkness, stop. Think about those who are around you. You are not alone. You will be missed. If you feel like your problems will be a burden to those in your inner circle or feel embarrassed, dial 988. If you are a veteran, take option 1. We need you to keep pushing forward. Don't make a permanent solution to a temporary problem. If you are a new listener, welcome to the Misfit Nation.
Show.
Be sure to subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast app. Also on our YouTube channel at @the_Misfit Nation. Subscribe and click the bell to keep you up to date on our latest episodes and all of our news. You can also find us on Heroes Media Group and About Face Radio. Now, let's get to the show!
All right. Welcome back to the Misfit Nation. It's our Sunday after dinner show. Thank you for taking some of your time on this weekend, heavy sports weekend. Got NFL, WNBA finals tonight. The Mets are in the NLCS tonight against the Dodgers. Lots of things you could be doing, but you're right here with us, and we appreciate you for that. We have one more to add to our wall of end of watch. Trooper Corey S. Thompson, Illinois State Police, Illinois. End of watch Friday, October 18th, 2024. Let's keep him, his family, friends, his peers they worked with, and the other officers in your thoughts and prayers as they go through this tough time. Let's continue to try to do the right things out there and make people feel good about themselves and not have to resort to violence. Tonight, we have a great guest. After decades spent in the corporate world, juggling being a single mom while secretly battling addictions to alcohol, food, and toxic relationships, she is now an expert on spiritual recovery, and she is passionate about empowering others to live their best life. She's a spiritual and transformational life coach and founder of Day One Life Coaching. So without further ado, let's welcome Mary Beth Schrudder to the Misfit Nation show. Welcome, Mary Beth.
Hello. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
It's awesome to have you here, and you're probably one of the best communicators I've had as a guest to the show. You talked to me ever since you actually scheduled, so I knew you'd be here, and I had no worries about you being here tonight. So thank you.
You're very welcome.
So Mary Beth, I just gave basically a 2-sentence blurb on you right there. Dig right in and share as far back as you want to go to how we got here with the Misfit Nation.
Yeah, well, I guess a good place to start, considering what your show's all about with addiction, is a lot of people get stuck in this struggle because of like traumas. There's a lot of traumas that could happen either in your childhood or later in life, as you know. And it's really just a way of self-soothing, self-medicating. People are seeking relief in our society. We criminalize it and we stigmatize it, and things like that, instead of really looking at the root cause. It's like, why is somebody even trying to self-soothe through all of these substances, whether it be alcohol or drugs? And addiction can be a lot more than alcohol and drugs too. I actually had some childhood trauma, and I was a very sensitive child too. When I started drinking alcohol, my first drink was when I was only 11 years old, if I'm being quite honest. And when I first had that, I know, right? Well, I didn't become a regular drinker, I will say that, but I was on a vacation with a girlfriend, and her parents just kind of had it sitting out on the counter, and we were like, let's try it. And I gotta tell you that it was the first time in my life I felt relief, because I always just had anxiety. I've been diagnosed with anxiety, depression, OCD, ADHD, all these things. So of course I'm trying to self-medicate, but I'm not on any medication anymore. And I don't cater to any addictions anymore either. I'm actually 5 years alcohol-free completely. And 2 years before that, I actually had slowed it down a lot. I really wasn't drinking very much. I was trying to somehow keep alcohol in my life. I would do stuff like, well, maybe I'll drink organic wine, or I didn't like beer. So I was like, well, maybe I'll just drink beer. But then I would drink some beer, and then I would be like, get the cloud of judgment and get the buzz. And then I'd go to switch to the wine, things like that. And, but yeah, I did start regularly drinking when I was 14 though, but it was because of that relief it gave me. And that's what I really want to emphasize, is that people are trying to not feel their feelings. They don't like their life for one reason or another. They don't want to be present. I mean, and it continued like through, I was divorced, single mom, and then I had this job that I hated. A lot of us are doing we are participating in addictions that we lie to ourselves. We lie to ourselves. Like, it was really hard for me to tell, because guess what? Everyone around me was drinking just as much or even more in some cases. It was my reward after work. Ooh, I hated my day. This is my reward, and I wasn't seeing it as what it really was self-sabotage. And I never lacked for someone to drink with me. And then, as it progresses, you start to isolate yourself more, and you drink at home, and you don't really need the friend to go to happy hour with you anymore.
Definitely, and you basically healing yourself by yourself without the buddy system.
Well, yeah, like, I was self-medicating. I wasn't healing myself at all, because I was just drinking by myself and, um, you know, allowing it, because I didn't have any other. I didn't understand it. I didn't even understand that I had a problem. It was just, denial is the strangest phenomenon. And I think, like, if every day we're looking forward to drinking every day, like, if it's something that we just really honestly, the way to tell if you have an addiction is try to give it up for a week. Some people can't even do that. Some people can't. Like, I have a lot of clients I help with relationships too, like you mentioned earlier, toxic relationships. Everything I teach is something that I've gone through myself. So there's a lot of my clients who they get in these toxic relationships because of alcohol. Like, we go on these dates and we're drinking and we have the cloud of judgment, and we miss these red flags, and we're not really getting to know each other. It's fun, right? Like, you can have fun with pretty much anyone when you're drinking, right?
Yeah,
So, like,
pretty
my
much.
recommendation is go on the first 3 dates, and I bet most of your dates are gonna turn into only 1, because when you're sober and you date, in this modern dating world, we're usually meeting people on dating apps and things like that. You're gonna really, if you date sober, you're gonna avoid a lot of these problems, because you're gonna be able to ask the right questions, like, do you like their values, their lifestyle. Um, you're gonna find out, like, their expectations for the future. These are all things that when we're out drinking, and sometimes people are drinking every time they go out while they're, you know, dating each other for a long period of time. I definitely was guilty of that. I could say, like, every time I was like, before I met my husband, like, every time we went out, we drank, and then next thing I know, we're engaged. But I was drinking when he proposed. And we ended up getting married really fast, because, like, 6 months from the day we met. That's what alcohol does. You make impulsive. I was a bit impetuous, a bit reckless, right? We're just not really clear thinking, because alcohol dumps down your brain. Let's face it.
It pickles it, definitely pickles it, and clouds the judgment a little bit.
A little
And
bit.
yeah, a little bit. I mean, you went into the sprint to marriage. There's at 6 months. I think mine was 5 months. I got married after I met my wife, but she doesn't drink and never has. So,
Oh,
but
cool.
we've been together 30 years. So we
Oh,
did sprint. We
congratulations.
did sprint to the marriage, but then we got our Hollywood wedding about 5 years later. So
Well, you were probably not drinking all with her. Like, it's I don't really put a timeline on love, because I know a lot of people who knew right away, and that's great. But what I do say is, just try to be sober those first 3 dates, and really, have a nice foundation, because what's going on these days, let's be honest, people are having sex really quickly. So you're having sex with a stranger, and then you're like, why didn't it work out long term? Well, because you didn't know the person, you jumped into it.
and
So that's why.
that goes along the line with the addiction thing too. A lot of them are
Yes.
generation is addicted to that quick rush of the sex, and the sex is
Sex.
all it has to be, and then you don't know even how to speak to each other, because that's all your relationship is.
Well, you brought up another huge addiction that we deal with today in the modern technology world is pornography. And then I think it's like, it really teaches people the lack of intimacy. People get confused. They confuse pornography sex with real sex, and it's not the same. Okay, guys, those are actresses. Okay, but anyway, it's just. And it really does upset relationships if somebody gets that addiction and they can't stop watching pornography. It really does. It can destroy a relationship. I mean, I've seen it happen so many times with pornography addiction, and what it does, and the ideas it puts into people's head. And then it's like, you take things a step further and a step further, and next thing you know, somebody's, unfaithful, things like that.
'cause they're looking for that next rush, and you're not in
Yes.
anymore.
It's the dopamine hits. Yeah, it's addiction. It really is.
And, and it can be. I mean, we talked about alcohol, we talked about sex, and it could be just about anything. It could be that rush that you're looking for.
You know what? Sports are an addiction. You were talking
Yes.
about sports earlier, and I got a story. Like I dated this guy once who was really into Dolphins. Like that was his team, man. And he would stand in front of the TV just watching it, like right there. And I was like, okay, that's kind of cute. It's quirky, whatever. But later on in the relationship, I realized like every time his team lost, and the Dolphins lost all the time, he was in a bad mood. It would ruin that day and sometimes even the next couple days. Like, and you're not even look, hey, if you're a player, you're the coach, I get it. But you're not even playing the sport and you're letting it destroy your next 2 days. That's something to look at. That's a problem. That's an addiction. Shopping's an addiction. Like people go out because what are we doing? We're trying to fill a void. Well, I'm going to buy this next thing. This is going to change my life. And then, okay, we had that dopamine hit. Now let's look for a new one. Shopping and spending money that you don't really have can really affect your family. Work is a huge addiction. I have a lot of clients with that. And, that seemed like, oh, that's not so bad, but it does destroy families because you're not present with your family. You're not prioritizing them, even, your kids. And this isn't just men. This is men and women. Both do it. I've had to reel myself in, because when you have that addictive tendency, my addictive brain, I get all the addictions. Like I've got to always be mindful and pay attention and use my spiritual recovery tools. It's a daily thing. And I think people think, okay, I'm recovered. And that's not how it works. Like it's daily work. We got to rely on commitment and discipline because motivation comes and goes. It is not always there. Right. So we really need to become committed. Remember why are we trying to quit this habit? Because sometimes it's just a habit that's gone awry. Right. You start out doing it and it gets out of control over the years. Even with kids, like let's think about video games. There's some video gamers out there, and I'm not saying it's not okay to do it now and then, but if you're always, it's the same thing. You want to be in a fantasy world. You don't want to be present in your own life. And with trauma and things, like we got to deal with the trauma before we got to deal with, okay, what happened with us? There's so many things that can happen to you throughout your life. Everybody's got some sort of trauma. And sometimes people just don't recognize it. Some of my clients are like, oh, I don't have any addictions. They're like, we're going to work on some other goals for them. But sometimes they're the ones who have the most addictions, the ones who say they don't. And then when we start to go through sessions, I'm like, okay, but self-awareness is part of it. I was in denial for a long, long time. We become really good liars, not only to other people, but to ourselves.
Definitely. And that's the big one. When you're selling the lie to everyone else, you're also selling it to yourself.
Yes.
You want to believe it as well. And
Yes.
Jake from my Tuesday cruise, but it's not just a river in Egypt on the denial.
Denial ain't just a river in Egypt.
He's on it tonight. That's good. You spoke about the putting work over family, and 90% of military does this on a daily basis. Military first responders, they put everything they can into work, and knowing that they have to be on their A game at work all the time, and then they neglect their families. And I was guilty of it, and I didn't realize it until I retired. And my daughter wrote an article for a magazine that really ripped me to shreds when she wrote it. Life of a Military Brat. It was was the title. And it was like, I had a dad. I had a picture. I knew I had one, but he was never here.
Oh, God, that's heartbreaking.
So that's when I realized how much I left on the table at home, and I was putting everything into work.
And you probably had great intentions. You probably were like, I'm fulfilling my obligations. I'm doing this for my family. And it's really hard to see when you're in it.
Right. And now it's completely flipped now that I have an actual adult job now. I'm not in the military anymore. So it's a different world now.
Yeah. And, so 16 years of my son's life, he's 21 now. Like I said, I've been alcohol free for 5 years. But so he dealt with a mom who wasn't as present as she could have been, even though I was here. I'm physically here, but alcohol takes you out of the present moment. It really does. And we aren't as, but I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. Another reason that was hard for me to quit is because I was kind of a fun, happy drunk. Like and my son kind of liked it a little too, because he would kind of take advantage because I got more generous. Oh, let's go. I got more playful. We'd go do more things. He would be like, hey, let's go to this restaurant and blah, blah, blah. And, and the problem with me is I would have something to drink there. And then I would stop and get a bottle of wine on the way home and drink that too. I didn't have a stop button. Not everybody is good with moderation. And I think that's a good message for your listeners is like, you got to really ask yourself this. It's very personal. Like, some of us have this, we can dial it up and down. We can moderate, right? And I was able to do that some of the time. Like I could 20 times in a row moderate. And, or even for months, sometimes just be like, okay, I only had a couple glasses of wine, but then the 21st time I'm going to have 2 bottles. I'm going to be hammered, I'm going to do something stupid. I have to apologize to everybody the next day, and all the things and feel like shit the next day. And it got to the point where I was, then it would be that way again. The moderation days were over, so like we can't moderate for a very long time. There's actually a quote by St. Augustine that says abstinence is easier than perfect moderation. And I 100% agree with that for me. I just am not good at that. Like I'm more all in or all out. And that's something that you got to decide for yourself. Like I said, or, I'm very good at abstinence as long as I don't get started. But that moderation, it was too much of a gamble for me. I was always going to end up overdoing it again. I was always going to end up hating myself and then the shame and the guilt and all the things. And then it's really sad when you realize, like I said, it took me 2 years before I actually quit. And it was just sad to realize how little control, because I always thought, well, I'll just quit when I want to quit.
Yep.
I didn't know. And honestly, what I really didn't know was how horrible alcohol was for you. I knew that it was bad for our liver. We all know that. Okay. Like it's not great for your liver. We know it depletes us of nutrients. I think we know those things, but literally it's a group 1 carcinogen right up there with tobacco and asbestos. It's right up there, but they don't put that on the warning labels. It's a big scam, and it's because alcohol's big business. Right. And do you remember well, I don't remember because I wasn't even alive, but I remember hearing about it, but doctors used to prescribe cigarettes to patients back in the 1930s through the 50s because tobacco companies paid them to do so. And it kind of feels like that. Like it's weird that it's so accepted. It's so normalized. It's so, like everywhere you go, there's alcohol. Like I'm the weird one now. Now, like I'm the oddball at a party who doesn't drink. And before I was accepted, it's the one drug that we have to justify not doing, so when people start, I get asked all the time, why don't you drink? Like, why? And I'm like, why do you? That's why I just turn around on them. Why do you have to drink to have fun?
Definitely do that. And when I was like 2 or 3 years old, the doctor prescribed me wine to help build my blood levels.
Mm-hmm.
My blood was wrong. My blood was bad. I had pneumonia. I was anemic. So the doctor prescribed me to have a glass of wine. I don't know how often we had to have it, but that's when I started having alcohol. When I was 2 and 3 years old, and it's a long time for that. And but that's
You were how old?
2 or 3 years old when this started. They would give me like little nips of it. So I guess
that is
was
so
just,
interesting.
yeah, and that's just how things were back then, I guess.
Do you remember like hottie toddies? Like, yeah, like, that was a way that it was like medicine and things. And now we know like what they're really saying now. If you look into it, there really is no safe amount of alcohol. There really isn't, because it's ethanol. It's a poison. And I mean, it's not going anywhere anytime soon, but I do think more people are waking up to they're waking up to it, to realize like, it's funny. Cause I'm not a conspiracy theorist, like all the way, like, but I definitely am a critical thinker, and I see through a lot of the BS out there. And I think so. I don't drink tap water because of the fluoride content. That's one that I do. But I know so many people like that. They won't drink tap water, but they'll drink alcohol every day. And I'm like, that's so. Do you see what I see? Okay, but whatever.
I seen something on probably Facebook or something a few months back where a woman said, you can never get your husband to drink water, but he can drink a 12-pack of beer without even thinking about it. But water takes so long to drink. And that's just that mindset that you have to have the one, the other will always be there.
Yeah, we can convince ourselves of so many things. It's just like you said earlier, the denial ain't just the river in Egypt. And I definitely lied to myself. And we can't really start healing until we bring it out into our conscious mind. Like, I think subconsciously, I always knew my life's going to get a lot better when I let this go, when I let these addictions go. And And honestly, I couldn't let go of the toxic relationship patterns until I let go of the alcohol, because alcohol can really keep you stuck in these other patterns too. Like because you don't see things, because you're not thinking clearly. So if you're in a bad relationship and you're drinking, sometimes it can make it like this, well, you're numbing out, and you can make things can seem more okay. You can justify things. You can justify staying in negative relationships, even friendships.
Definitely. And earlier you talked about all the acronyms that you had labeled on you, all the different ADD, ADHD, and you said you were able to get off medication with it. How long did that take to do, and what was your, I guess, your practice to get to that?
I didn't take medication for very long at all. So I was prescribed, I would never take the ADHD stuff. I was prescribed antidepressants. And honestly, it was, my body doesn't react very well to prescriptions. After about a week, I was like a zombie. And I remember driving on the freeway, and and I've never been like what I would call suicidal. Like, I've been sad and depressed, but I would never have called myself suicidal ever. But I remember driving on the freeway, and I just had this intrusive thought, like, wouldn't it be interesting if I just like cut the wheel in front of this semi truck? And I was like, what? So I was like, I don't think these are good for me. And they're like, oh my God, just stop taking them. You don't even have to wean off, just stop. Because I'd only been on them for a week. So I went, I've always been a person who is into personal development. I've always been a spiritual seeker. So I just started looking into alternative things to help myself, because I couldn't do the medication. So like a lot of it was the shadow work, which shadow work just means we are, really looking into these rejected parts of ourselves, really dealing with the traumas that we've been shoving down and keep shoving down with alcohol. Sometimes it's food. I get a lot of clients with food addiction, and people can really kill themselves with food. Like it's really not looked at as bad as alcohol. I think it's every bit as bad as alcohol, because I know people who, have diabetes and stuff because of their sugar addiction. And listen, sugar was one that I had to get off of too. It was hard. I heard it's like 9 times as addictive as heroin or something. Somebody told me that the other day. Don't quote me on that, but I feel like it was really hard to stop sugar for me too. But I feel so good without it. I feel so good without alcohol in my system. And you guys, if you're trying to quit something, when you get it out of your system, you don't crave it, right? Like, I don't crave cocaine because I don't have it in my system. Okay. Same thing with sugar, same thing with alcohol. And it is hard in the beginning. And then you have to deal with the emotional and the mental attachment that we had to it, of course. But at least those physical cravings stop after about 3 days.
Wow. And was there other natural remedies for those acronyms for other people that they could do to maybe steer themselves out of because there's kids now that are on like 30 medications a day.
Yeah.
Also those things. Is there ways for parents to maybe steer them to something else, a natural remedy?
Yeah, like I get clients, I get kids too. I get 12 years old up to, like, right now, like my span is 12-year-old. I got up to 60-year-old men, like, and then the 12-year-old girl, so I get them all over the place. And of course, you got to treat everyone different. And I have kids who have gotten off of the acronyms because they just learn how to manage, like learning how to manage your thoughts, learning how to manage your feelings. Like, this is a skill that should be taught in school. In my opinion, we should be teaching kids meditation, breath work, grounding exercises. Our feet never touch the ground anymore. And it's so important, just to get out there barefoot, things like that, moving your body every day, being in nature, just connecting with others too, because the opposite of addiction is not sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection. A lot of us, we're drinking because we feel so isolated these days, and we don't feel like we have a purpose, or a passion or any bonds anymore, so, find ways to do that. I mean, this doesn't sound like I'm talking about healing techniques, but I am. Having fun again. We need to lighten up. We forgot to be kids. We forgot how to be kids. We go through traumas and life seems so heavy. So get help. That's like my number one thing. Get help. Do things. Give yourself a fighting chance by asking for help and seeking guidance.
Definitely. I definitely ask for help in all areas. Don't think you have to do everything alone. There's other people that have been through what you're fighting through, or have tackled the problem or worked the problem that you're trying to work the same way.
Follow people who are where you want to be.
Yeah, definitely. If you want to be like The Rock, be like The Rock.
Yeah,
Do what he does. If you want to
exactly.
be like whoever your hero is, be like that. Do everything they do. If you want to write books like the person you idolize that writes, and do the
Mhm.
work. Do the 10,000 words a day, or how many words you can type a day without getting a carpal tunnel or finger cramps, I guess. But do it. Just get out and do it.
I love that.
So we haven't even talked about what you actually do for a living now. So spirituality, spiritual life coach. Tell us about that. You know, a lot of people hear spiritual and it's like a voodoo word. Oh, it's spiritual. It has to be religious. I'm not going to talk about it. But I want you to explain to us what it is and why it's not voodoo.
Well, we're all spiritual beings, every single one of us having a human experience, right? So we're all spiritual beings. I'm not religious. I don't consider myself religious. I believe there's a creator of everything. I do believe I call source energy or God. And so spiritual recovery is really just it's a big meaning, but it's different for everybody. Like I said, when I have like these, so my clients, some of them are 12-year-olds, some of them are 60-year-olds or so, or and more. And yeah, and it's basically self-awareness, self-realization, getting to know yourself, learning how much our thoughts and our feelings affect our everyday. Like we have so much more control over our life than we realize. And so I teach people things based on where they are, like I can't I've got to meet each individual. It's all customized. It's like the 12-year-old's going to be way different than the 6-year-old. And it's funny because when I first started coaching, I'm like, I'm going to do this in session 1 and this in session 2. And it's not like that at all. So basically coaches work as your partner. So we're like partners and we give you guidance, but I do believe that everybody has their own connection to God, the creator. And we have our own intuition, and everything is energy. Not only is it not woo woo, it's science. Everything is energy. It's just like the universal law of attraction is something I teach. And that's like the same as the universal law of gravity. We don't get to say, I'm not going to apply gravity today. It was same thing with law of attraction. It's happening whether you believe in it or not. And I can teach people how to use it deliberately so they're not using it by default and their life's like all over the place. And we actually, like I said, we have so much more control when we realize that everything is energy. Like you look at anything under a microscope, it vibrates. We're vibrational beings and we attract things with our thoughts and with our feelings. It's a vibrational universe. And once we learn that, we can really raise our vibration. And something like, I'm going to be honest with you, these addictions fell away from me the more I learned about it, the more I did this work. Like you just become no longer a match to it because you raise your vibration, and then you're like, okay, well, alcohol is a lower vibrational substance. And I started to get physically sick just even taking a sip of it because it was no longer a match.
I mean, that's awesome. It's awesome that you were able to break that barrier and get through there. I've got 2 questions in the chat right now. One is a pretty good question. How do you advise against trading one addiction for another?
Replacing it with a healthy addiction, you're going to need to find another addiction, honestly, because like when I quit drinking alcohol, I had so much freaking time in my day. Like I was like, oh my gosh. So I started to go to the gym every day instead of happy hour. I overdid it at first. I became a gym rat. Let yourself have a healthy addiction at first and then find the balance later. So like find something that you're passionate about, that you love, that you're going to be able to it'll feel like self-medication in a way, because I still got that dopamine hit from going to the gym, right? Like, and I felt so good. And then it was better. And then it took a while. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. It was, I wanted to go to happy hour some of those nights instead of the gym. But like I said, that motivation isn't always going to be there. You got to rely on discipline, commitment, and remember your why.
Definitely. That's a great answer, Jake. I hope that helped you out. Now we got from one of our climbers in Nepal, one of our local loyal listeners, Raj. Are people that chase peaks like climbers truly addicted to that rush of the climb?
It could be. I can tell you that the addict brain is different, and it's kind of cool because the addictive brain, we feel things more than a normal brain. And I could tell you an example of this if we have time. Or do we have time?
Yeah.
Okay, so when I was first realizing that I really needed to quit, a friend of mine, 2 friends of mine, we actually were going to together take this pill called naltrexone, which is prescribed for like food addiction, But we saw it a documentary called One Little Pill, and it was all about taking this. It's an opioid blocker, like an opiate blocker, some people call it. It's called naltrexone, and we actually ordered it from India because we didn't want it in the United States here. Like, you don't want stuff like alcoholism or something on your record. You don't want that, because then you're going to be labeled and your insurance is going to go up, and your life insurance, it's just going to be bad. So we ordered this from India. And we get the pills, and the whole premise is you take a pill 1 hour before you have your first drink, and it blocks the pleasure centers of your brain. So, and then you just don't have that, like I said, I didn't have a stop button. I wasn't able to moderate. It was so interesting because you drink, you could tell you have a buzz, you could tell you're drunk, but it's just not as fun. I didn't have as much pleasure. What it did is it made my brain a normal drinker's brain. And I was like, no wonder they can just leave alcohol in their glass and not finish it. No wonder they think we're weak, because you didn't give a shit about that second glass of wine. Like, I for the first time in my life felt like what a normal drinker felt. But guess what? I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all, because I really was drinking for that rush, for that feeling. So yeah, to answer your question, I think that it is an addiction. I think adrenaline is part of the whole brain chemistry, and we get addicted to that rush. We want more, and then something that used to be super fun isn't enough for us. We got to do a little bit more, just like the tolerance with drugs, right? We need more. Now we need more. I needed to drink more wine in order to feel just as much. I couldn't get drunk anymore off of 2 glasses, right? So I had to increase it, and eventually I'm doing 2 bottles. And anyway, that it was very interesting to see that naltrexone was able to block that pleasure center and make me a normal drinker. And I didn't care about that second drink, but I also didn't even that was the first step, because I was like, I didn't quit drinking, but I definitely wasn't going to take that pill again, because it took away the fun of it. And I was after the fun. And I was like, wow, alcohol really doesn't have this power that I thought it did. It's my brain that has the power, like the addict's brain. We have one cookie. It's really good. We don't want to stop at one. We would just want to keep going, because we're getting more pleasure than a typical brain would get from that cookie. So we eat the whole sleeve.
Eat the whole bag of Chips Ahoy. That's
the whole thing.
That's why them little girls outside of Walmart or whatever your local grocery store is selling them Girl Scout cookies. They always smile when they try to mug you for their cookies. So
Girl Scout cookies are evil, man. Thin mints.
Oh, and they get less now for the same price, or actually more money. So it's even worse. And now, if you tell me you don't have cash, they are automatically, we can take cards, sir. Yes, great.
They take Venmo now.
Yes, they take everything. And
you don't have any excuses. I'm gonna tell them I'm a sugar addict. I can't. I'm an addict.
You gotta run or find a door they're not at, or they're gonna get you. And
I've done that.
Because you'll see them on the way, and I'll see you on the way out, and you look. Gotta go. I'm going out this other door. I'm gonna get away from that little girl. Of course, she's gonna tackle me, so I'm gonna make it.
Like, I had a kid selling me candy bars for his for school, and like the other day at my door, and I was like gonna first just give him cash. I'm like, here, just take $10, and I don't need your candy. But then he's like, why don't you just take some for your son? Because he actually is a neighbor. So I went ahead and got a couple for my son. And, it's like, I can be around it without being tempted. It's just what I can't do still is, like, I don't want to take that first bite, because I'm not good at stopping. And that's something we just need to be honest with ourselves about. So if you're listening to me and you're like, yeah, I really suck at stopping too, that's an addiction. That it's you got to just say, it's okay. Like, I'm not a moderator. I'm an abstainer. And guess what? If you're an extremist like me, you're going to be good at abstaining and finding something else to get crazy with.
Just go nuts on something else, like you did in the gym. So
yeah, exactly.
Wake up early, go to the gym.
Or a passion, like my job. Like, I love my work now, right? When I wanted to drink so much, is because I was working in corporate and I hated my job. So what we want to do is we want to create our life in such a way. And that's what I help my clients do. Let's create your life to where you don't have these voids, that you don't hate your life, and you don't mind being present in your life. That is spiritual. That's what I mean by spiritual. Like, we are taking on a new thing, getting rid of those limiting beliefs that are holding you back from doing just that. Because a lot of people, simply they just don't realize, like, they don't have to be stuck in this job. They don't have to be. We can fix that. We can get you, find your passions. And maybe you're very confused and you feel stuck. It's only because you've been thinking the same thoughts and feeling the same way every day. We got to do something different, where a lot of us are on autopilot. So I help people get out of autopilot. That's a big part of what I do.
Outstanding. And Mary Beth, we've hit a lot of topics very quickly tonight, so it's awesome. What's the best way to get in contact with you if someone in the audience wants to reach out to you just for advice, or maybe to get you on their show? I have a lot of other podcast hosts that
Yeah.
listen to my show as well.
I'm on every platform, TikTok, Instagram. I got 2 Facebook pages. I'm on, I have a YouTube, spiritual transformation podcast with Mary Beth. So I'm on everything, but the best way is my website, day1lifecoaching.com, DAYONE lifecoaching.com. And if anyone's listening thinking, hey, maybe I would like to see what one-on-one coaching is about, I do offer a free discovery call, which is, you just tell me a little bit about yourself and I'll tell you a little bit about how I work. We decide, are we a match? And that's one-on-one Zoom with me during that free call. And sometimes we're not a match, but I should be able to guide you to somebody who might be better for you. And for your listeners, if you want, I created a coupon code for, I used Misfit. So Misfit, all one word, on my website. But I've got addiction recovery with the law of attraction, this deck of cards that I made. And it's got all the techniques that I use to break my addictions. And it also teaches the law of attraction. There's a lot of misconceptions out there that make it seem woo-woo, make it seem like it's like superstition and things like that. And it just makes me cringe when I see all that misinformation. So that's why I created this deck of cards, because it's all got everything that helps me. You pick a card every day and follow the instructions on it.
Outstanding.
Oh, by the way, the coupon code Misfit is for $10 off the deck.
Okay, Misfit for $10 off deck on your website, right? On the day one.
Yeah, and I also have a link tree that
I put
has,
that on there as well.
yeah, that's got it'll even have it'll say addiction recovery cards. Yeah, right. Like when you click on that, it's got all my stuff.
So everyone, make sure you click those links and find your match. And if like Mary Beth said, if she is not the match, she will get you to the right person, or the right direction.
Program. Yeah, it might be something completely different than a one-on-one thing.
Awesome. Mary Beth, we also make our guests give the audience 3 things they can do tomorrow to be better, to have a more successful day, week, year. What would 3 things they can start doing tomorrow to make that jump for them?
Well, let's start tonight. Like, try to do a little meditation, which meditation doesn't have to be, this big thing where your mind's totally quiet. I used to think that and I got freaked out by it, but just try not to have distractions for 10, 15 minutes. Try to listen. It means really like focusing on one thing. And like for me, sometimes it's just, petting my dog, just being away from distractions. Put the phone down. Okay. Scrolling addiction's a huge thing too, by the way. I mean, that's like one that everybody's got right now. And I literally put my phone away. So I give myself that time every day, because that will definitely raise your vibration. And do that in the morning too. Like do a little 10, 15 minutes at night, 10, 15 minutes in the morning. I'm not asking much. Just get rid of distractions for 10 or 15 minutes. Something else, move your body in some way in the morning before you get started with everything else. Like a lot of people pick up their phone and they start scrolling first thing. Do some sort of thing to, it could be walking. It could be something small just that you could do in your house. I have a rebounder, I'll jump because it's great for your lymphatic system and stuff. And I'll do something like that every morning. I will do like 15 minutes moving my body. I do like to go outside in nature in the mornings. And even if it's cold out, I'll sit out there and just just be in nature and have my bare feet on the ground. I will do that. That's not for everyone. But also start listening to some positive messaging. That's another good thing. And then when it comes to that, find the people that are going to motivate you personally and whatever your personal goals are. So find that positive messaging. And if you're trying to quit an addiction, I'm going to say the opposite. Start focusing on the negative things about that addiction. Like look into alcohol and see how horrible it is for you. Like all the stuff that they don't talk about, and that it does cause cancer, and it causes so many, like there's so many ways to die. So Like if it's sugar, look into all the negative things about sugar, because it's the opposite of what a law of attraction teacher would normally teach. But I'm telling you, focus on the negative things about the substance you're trying to quit, because that will help you, because you're going to be like, why am I doing this? It's really hard once you've expanded your mind to unlearn that. It's stuck. Then, and you might not quit right away, but it's going to be it's planted a seed.
It's in the nugget at that point. Definitely is.
Yeah.
Mary Beth, this has been awesome chatting with you tonight. Thank you again for coming on a Sunday night to hang out with us and giving a great message to the audience. I think the audience got a lot out of it. They were pretty chatty in the comments and such. So, and a lot of people are on still, which is, it's kind of strange for a Sunday night. So
for a Sunday night, you're right.
Thank you for being on, and I hope you have a great night and great rest of your week.
You too. It was fun. Thank you for having me.
Bye-bye.
This message is from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. Did you serve in the military? If so, you can obtain a free lifetime pass to more than 2,000 federal recreation sites. These sites are located across more than 400 million acres of public lands, including national parks, wildlife refuges, and forests. The lands host activities to fit any lifestyle: hiking, biking, fishing, camping, and much more. Gold Star families are also eligible for these free lifetime passes. Plus, they cover entrance fees for a driver and all passengers in a car, or up to 3 additional adults at sites that charge per person. Obtaining one is easy. Just go to the National Park Service website, nps.gov, or the National Park Service app.
Thanks for checking us out and being a part of the Misfit Nation show. Don't forget to visit our website at themisfitnation.com. That's themisfitnation.com. Check out all our past episodes and get some of the great Misfit Nation gear for you and your family. As always, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling, because we are
Misfit Nation. Misfit Nation.